Planet 9, not X, tilting sun, twisting solar system, Viz.org, space.com, mainstream news, NASA admits 1,200 new planets discovered, presidential election, financial collapse, bank holiday, staged events, media subliminal mind control, Archon feeding ground, breaking free, Matrix, Dr. Joseph Marra, greatest new project. Here's what I'm seeing that's going on right now, possibly. Now, I've seen this so many times in the past, since I've always, not always, but often brought up before. This is cyclical, in my opinion, especially around election time. It seems to be heated up, a lot of these certain doomsday scenarios to get people in that reptilian brain set, fight or flight mode, so they're easier to orchestrate, easier to control, etc. But I certainly see the possibility of more war. Now, are we going to go to war with Russia? If we do that, that could certainly pull in China, Iran, virtually every modern nation on the planet, which would equal World War III. And I see a lot of TV shows and movies that are portraying the fall of our government here at home, fall of the White House. I mean, those movies that came out just a couple years ago even, and the TV shows, the new series that's out there called Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland, Mr. Robot showing an economic collapse, a new currency that's based on digital versus this fiat paper system, etc. So, I mean, certainly there's a lot of stuff that could possibly be going down. Now, you've brought to my attention some of the health issues with certain political candidates, and you have brought up before that you're not sure if Hillary or Donald Trump is going to make it into office. You think something else could go on, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I also want to bring up all this talk about Planet 9 being discovered at the edge of our solar system, Caltech University. Now it's all over space, different space websites, pretty mainstream stuff too. It's been talked about on Forbes. Phys.org actually came up with a really cool article recently talking about how the reason the sun has seen a recent tilt is because of this enormous planet on the outskirts of our solar system. And now they can call it Planet 9, not Planet X, because Pluto was downgraded in 2006 by one of the same gentlemen that's talking about Planet X. So could there be a coincidence there? I don't know. But I also want to bring up the executive order that has recently been released in the whitehouse.gov. You can go and read about it. Coordinating efforts to prepare the nation for space weather events. Virtually all large networks in the Department of Defense, space satellites, etc., nuclear facilities have to come up with some new preparations and safeguards due to possibilities. Could this be related with this ginormous planet that they're finally telling us about, Planet 9? This is all the stuff we're going to talk about. So I know that that was definitely a mouthful, and who better to talk about this than with you, Joseph? So thanks a lot for spending time with us, man. I know that you're super busy, got a lot going on. This should be great.
Oh, you know what? You did say a mouthful, but there's a lot going on right now, and you hit on a lot of the key things that are going on. And like you said, is it a distraction? Are they going to pull some kind of a blue beam? Look over here with the right hand, so you're not paying attention to what the left hand's doing. Right around the election time, absolutely. Everything that you said, I'm in tune with, and it's going to be curious how this conversation goes tonight.
Now, what do you think is going to happen with the presidential elections? Did you watch the debates?
The only debate that I caught was the very last one. And, like I've told you in the past, I don't watch TV. I catch it once in a while, like if I stop in at my mom's place or if I go into an establishment that has the television on, then I might look at it just to see what's currently going on. But I would have no idea what's really going on in the world if I didn't have those exposures. And the other day I watched the third and final debate only because I was home and I was like flipping through YouTube. And there was a live stream, and I thought, you know what, I might as well check this just to see what's going on with the people. And it was really, really interesting. I mean, oh my gosh. The thought I had was, you mean to tell me out of America, out of the 300 million people plus, these are the best for kids? It's laughable, and I'm sure we're being laughed at by other countries. I just can't even believe it.
What I thought was just hysterical was actually if you saw the Saturday Night Live skit where I think it was Alec Baldwin played Trump, and he played him perfectly. I mean, it was magnificent, brilliant. I could watch that dozens of times, hysterical. But when I watched the third debate, I literally thought to myself, is the same speechwriter involved in both of these scenarios? Because it was just the parallels, man. I mean, Donald Trump literally in that third debate was like Alec Baldwin playing Donald Trump in the Saturday Night Live skit, the stuff that he was saying, when he was saying it, the way that he was doing it. And even Hillary was kind of playing. They both played the roles very well. And, I think that obviously, here's what I'm seeing. This is where my mindset's going. I've talked before about how I think they're both kind of on the same playing field, playing for the same people, maybe behind the scenes. They used to be friends, or at least they used to say they were friends publicly and shown a lot in the limelight. Now they won't even shake hands or even walk past each other, at least in what we see in the mainstream. So I see if Hillary gets in office, it's going to be a continuation and more so of a globalist type America, and less identity, more into this. Just bring everybody everywhere into here. And if you were born in America, if you're a middle class of certain values, well, then you're going to be looked at as frowned upon, or racist, or a kook, or a redneck, or a hillbilly, or whatever, just because of this new approach to feminizing everything, make everything metrosexual. All the commercials now, the guys are portrayed as these real sissy-like, oh, yes, dear, what do you want me to do? Yes, I'll go out and play in the dollhouse while you watch cable on my big screen TV with your friends. I mean, that's the kind of portray that they have today in society, at least in the media. So where am I going with all this? Well, with the continuation of globalization versus nationalization, I see Donald Trump, if he gets in office, it's going to be more of a national type society. It's going to get more into maybe bringing jobs back here unless it benefits certain corporate interests. I don't know, but that's kind of where my mindset is going. Either way, I don't want to vote for either of them, because I think they're both very, I don't agree with either of them essentially, but I do see where they're going. Now, what do you think will happen if, let's look at both scenarios for you, if Donald Trump makes it in versus Hillary, or if Hillary makes it in versus Donald?
Well, to answer your question first, I think if Hillary gets in, it's going to be more of the same. If Donald gets in, I think there's going to be some change. But what you have to remember, there are like 13 families that run the planet, and there are a lot of people at the top within those 13 families. And I think the two candidates that are in play right now, each are sponsors of one of these 13 families. So regardless of who gets in, it's not like Donald Trump just came out of nowhere and all of a sudden he's, it's not by accident, and it's not, let's just say it's not an accident that he's there. He's gotten so far because, yes, the media, there's a spin on that, but there's all kind of things that you've seen over the years to stop people from being in a particular position. They have so many technologies out there that could kill a person like right now. And so I just by them being players on the chessboard, so to speak, I think that they're playing for maybe not the exact same team, but they're from the elites. And I think they're two different factions that are vying for a position. And I think that Hillary is representative of the old. And I think that there's a new faction out there that wants to take control. And these are both for old school. They're more draconian. They're more control factor people. But I really don't think either one is going to become president. If they do, if some surprise doesn't happen, like all of a sudden there's a martial law type thing, or there's a blue beam, or there's some other event that stops this election. I mean, first of all, Hillary Clinton should be in prison. Anybody else that has done what she's done, and if you watched any of the things with the Congress that is questioning the FBI director, it is anybody with eyes that can see is, oh my God, this is a cover up beyond a cover up. And so the reason I know that is, again, I'm flipping through YouTube, and thank God people record some of this stuff and put it out there. And I'm just like, I just can't even believe that she's even being able to run for president. So just that fact alone tells me that, people that have money, people that are in power, that's what been our problem up until this particular point in history. And so, we've strayed so far from the original Constitution, and I really think there's some white hats out there that are positioning themselves in such a way that when it's ready, the switch is going to be hit, and that first domino is going to fall, and then all of a sudden this cascade of events, just like the Wikileaks that's going on right now, right at the right time, all this information is coming out, and it's going to be kind of like a crescendo of information that comes out, and people are going to be wise to it and go, oh my gosh, we've been so duped. And here it is in black and white, because people need to see it in physicality. They need to hear it from, people of power, because, there are other people that are out there that are muddying the water, so to speak. So there's a lot of confusion right now. I'm not exactly sure how this is all going to play out. I'm just sitting back in the stadium like a lot of people and just going, wow, this is really interesting. I wonder how this is all going to play out.
Well, I certainly see WikiLeaks right now being pushed a lot in the media. They even asked questions during the debate in reference of WikiLeaks, and when that happened, my feelers just totally went berserker. I think that there is some type of wag the dog scenario going on with WikiLeaks. Whether the website has been completely taken over, I don't know. But, you know, that's another thing, too, with Trump and his rise in the media. And there was this big talk about how he wasn't spending any money on advertising, and maybe he wasn't. But when the media does airtime on something or somebody, they're doing it for a reason, and they know darn well that giving him all that coverage and pushing him that way allowed him to get a certain amount of exposure and create this certain division within the country. They knew very well what they were doing, and when you find out that there's 6 corporations literally at the top levels that control over 90% of the media, they've even got great charts. You can go to businessinsider.com, and you can actually look at this chart that shows the 6 different conglomerates and the corporations that they own underneath them. And what you're force-fed, the programming that you are given, literally programs your subconscious mind for most people to be good sheeple, you know, these subliminal sheeple. So when you see these 2 players out there, I think you're right. I think that they're in the same league. They're playing for 2 different teams in the same league. And this league controls virtually everything. And a lot of people are saying, hey, I don't want to be a part of this league anymore. You're not going to assimilate me. I'm going to do my own thing. And I think when enough people do that, they're going to do one of 2 things. They're going to say, fine, well, you've pushed us into this corner essentially where we don't have the control that we want, so we're just going to release hell on the earth, literally. Or they'll, you know, I don't know, maybe they'll find ways to work with the new type of system and adapt to what's going on. And certainly I hope that's what happens instead of the first thing that I brought up. But it certainly is amazing to think about the possibilities. Now, martial law. There, you know, if martial law goes full scale, are there enough troops to really implement martial law on U.S. soil with what's going on? How would that take place? Would the media push that as showing some video footage of one block where you've got just too much hardware and tanks, essentially people going door to door, stormtroopers, put that video footage on the World Wide Web as well as the corporate-owned media and scare everybody into this docile state so nobody would even consider doing anything but being submissive?
Well, you know, there are militias that are out there that are in coordination right now for that very thing, so that they can be supportive in the event that the government takes over the people rather than the people controlling the government. And that's where we're at right now. So again, I think there's key players on both sides are ready for something to unfold here. There seems to be a buildup for sure, and of course. It wasn't just the media that you're seeing, and you're wondering, okay, is this all propaganda that we're actually going to war with Russia? Because you see they're putting out different things with Putin saying, and I can't speak Russian, so they could put all kind of subtitles down there, and you could assume that this is what he's saying, but he's probably on the other end saying, I didn't say that, you know? Meanwhile, you see Hillary Clinton blaming Russia specifically. She was trying to avoid the poke that Donald Trump gave to her and saying that, hey, you know, I'm not exactly sure what he was blaming her for, which she did in fact do it, whatever it was. I'm trying to think what that was. Anyway, she tried to go around the situation by blaming the Russians for the situation and tapping into, you know, our communications and our emails and all this other kind of stuff. And I'm just sitting there going, now, wait a minute, there's plenty of information that shows, including Edward Snowden's information, that we all are being listened to on so many different levels, and probably more than what we would even imagine. And so for her to blame it on the Russians and try to divert the conversation or the attention away from herself to somebody else, I think that she's doing that just because of this election, for one. But that type of propaganda can create some real problems with other countries such as Russia. I mean, that's a superpower. And so, you know, you don't want to be going too far down that road, because once that button is pushed, I really don't think nuclear war is going to happen, though. I think we might start out a war or something like that, but and there might be some karmic release that has to be released on this planet still, but I'm not even sure about that now. I really think that we're coming to a head right now where everything these guys at the top that are playing out the negativity game, they're coming to they're finding that everything they're doing is backfiring on them, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so as the observer sitting back and watching this, I'm just like, You know, the other thing is Putin's a smart man. He's like a super chess player, right? So he's sitting back and just seeing it for what it is, and he's not getting drawn in and goaded into something so that he fires the first strike in like a preemptive thing, and then all of a sudden we have an excuse to go. So, you know, it's just really interesting. I mean, we could speculate about all kind of different things tonight because of all the information and all the sidelines and all the Nibiru and the Planet X and the sun's tilted, the planet is wobbling, you know, the weather changes, all this other stuff that's going on. But there's also technology that we have with the chemtrails, with HARP, with the various technologies that they have in submarines in the ocean that are creating these hurricanes and all this other stuff. So it's really difficult to say, are they just creating a lot of this stuff to cause fear, to keep our vibrations low so that we can't shift into these higher, because I feel these higher energies that my physical body, that we're, it's like our planet and solar system is going through the photon belt, like the ancients have talked about. And it just feels like we're ready for a shift. And those who don't want to change are hanging on to the old ways and they want to keep in control. But if you shift and you raise your vibration, the old no longer exists. So they're vying for their place in the world when, in fact, as humanity shifts and moves into these higher places, you know, you can't have a third dimensional being at a fifth dimensional place. The vibration is so different that it just can't happen. And so as we're shifting, and I'm not just talking humans, I'm talking all the plants and animals, the planets, the solar system, the universe, everything is shifting at this particular point. And so the other aspect is each individual person's perspective is going to be different depending on where they're vibrating at. So you can ask a third dimensional person what's going on in the world, and they'll give you an answer. You ask a fourth density person or a fifth density awareness type of a person, and they're all going to be completely different. So that throws even more confusion into these times. There's so much difference right now, or separation. Speaking about the separation game, I think that what we're heading towards is complete unity, which is a fifth dimension and beyond. And that gets rid of the polarity, that gets rid of fear. It's all unconditional love. And so as people shift towards that, their realities change, and they don't see any of this war or any of this other stuff that we're talking about. And it's basically game over at that point.
Well, that certainly sounds nice. And with the divide and conquer rule that's going on right now, problem, reaction, solution, there was a Twitter release that basically someone tweeted, the National West Bank in Britain is halting accounts with Russia today. So essentially...
Yes, I saw that.
I mean, and that I think is actually a big deal. Now, when I read into that, I actually had an opportunity to review the banking arrangements letter that was disclosed, and you can actually find this. It's available. It just says that they recently undertook a review of the arrangements, and they're not going to do business with them anymore. I found that very interesting. What do you think about that?
I think that that's a ploy. I think that's part of this whole the whole game, but it doesn't affect RT because they have their own funding. They don't really even need that bank or that funding. So they're going to keep broadcasting. Aside from, MI5 or 6 or whatever that comes in there and just kind of shuts them down or whatever, I really think that it's just going to continue. But I think it has been put out there so that people raise an eyebrow and go, oh, my God, things are getting worse. Can you imagine this? Again, you almost got to picture that everything that is done is to cause fear and doom and gloom, because when you decrease your vibration, and that's done through fear. And the way our population works, the more people that think one thing at one time, it's your general reality. So if you broadcast, like, here comes an asteroid, and you hit enough people, that 100th monkey roll, all of a sudden, the planet's going to be destroyed. And the more people that think that at one time, then that is the general reality. So those who don't know that or understand that, I mean, you could maybe like Google that and do a little bit of research in the 100th monkey roll and see how that works and how consciousness works. And, I don't know that there's many people that are listening to this show that are at a 3D level. If they are, they're the ones that are saying, oh, this is all BS and don't know anything of what I'm talking about. But as you raise up in vibration, you start to understand how the universe at a quantum level begins to work, at least the beginnings of it, because I'm not an expert at it, but I'm, delving into it and trying to understand it. So that's my personal opinion. So that's what the confusion is. Here we are in a dense 3D body, moving in and out of, say, fourth and fifth density or fourth or fifth awareness. And so we're still down here, if you will, and we're looking at what's going on, but we have a different consciousness to us, and we see things in a different light. It's a different truth almost.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was thinking about the WikiLeaks deal, where the information that's coming out on Wiki now seems to be kind of following into this whole role of where the media goes, WikiLeaks goes also. And there's organizations out there that clandestinely create certain articles that will, in response, get certain groups of people to do things, act certain ways, buy certain things, look up certain things, talk to their friends about specific things, etc. And it's amazing how powerful these people and these players are behind the scenes. So, I mean, even with the WikiLeaks Planet X thing that came out a few days ago, I got some footage of that where people were like, oh man, it's got to be real. It was on WikiLeaks, dude. Planet X is totally real. Well, if you go read the article, it's from 2015, and all that it is some emails that a concerned person that believes in Planet X sent out to some Congress people and some senators and stuff. You know, I mean, it wasn't like it was a released document from somebody that had access to the Lucifer telescope or these infrared telescopes that got real footage of this thing and then released it onto WikiLeaks. I mean, it was just an email that somebody sent that was concerned about it. But it is interesting now to read about all this Planet 9 stuff and how far back you can go with, 2006. Pluto is downgraded, so now it wouldn't be considered Planet X anymore anyway. But then NASA comes out. Let me read this to you real quick. This is actually pretty recent. This is from May 10th of this year. NASA's Kepler mission announces largest collection of planets ever discovered, and over 1,200 planets have now been discovered. 1,284 planets. So there's definitely a Planet X. Now, does that mean it's Nibiru that's talked about? I don't know. I mean, that's I'm definitely not sure about, but there's something else out there. And even if you go to phys.org, it talks about how the sun has been tilted. You go to space.com, Planet 9 can't hide much longer, scientists say. But maybe this is all orchestrated as well with these certain organizations behind the scene that tend to, it's like the Mandela effect. What are your thoughts?
Well, this goes back to subtle little drip-fed pieces of information that has a potential purpose. And so let's do a what if. What if Donald Trump is ahead in the polls and all of a sudden the current establishment, who doesn't want that person to be in, but wants Hillary Clinton to be in next, says, okay, we got to do something major here. So we got to have all these contingency plans put together just in case. And if he's ahead in the polls, then what can we do to create some kind of chaos or some type of event? Okay, so all right, well, let's pretend we're going to start a war with Russia, and let's just even go to the extent of moving troops to neighboring or to the border. Let's drip feed some information about this potential Planet X out there, and so if the people don't fall for, okay, we're going to go to war type of thing, okay, then we'll switch over to Planet X is here. Okay, if that doesn't work, okay, well, there's been some UFOs that have been seen in there, and plus UFOs and the Anunnaki and all this other stuff in Nibiru, it's all related, so maybe there's aliens there. And so what if there's some type of an event like Project Bluebeam, where, I don't know if you know Dr. Carol Rosen, and she talks about the final card. The final card will be that it'll be a false flag attack from aliens from outer space. And we've gone through all the other cards, and that's the last playing card. And what's funny is the elites, they are very, very ritualistic, and they have a playbook that they go by. And so if you look back over history and what people have said over the years, you're like, oh, check. Yep, that's what they said. That did happen. Oh, check. There's another thing that happened. And they were saying these things prior to the events that happened. So the only thing that I haven't seen that happened so far, whether they're going to use it yet or not, is that Project Bluebeam. And Rex, have you heard of Dr. Carol Rosen?
I haven't. I'm very familiar with the Project Bluebeam and one of the last Illuminati cards that you talk about, the fake alien invasion. And that's another thing that's very interesting, too, when you get into the whole Roswell possibility. I don't know if you've heard of Douglas Dietrich before, but he talks about how he had direct access to many Department of Defense files, reports, white papers, and stuff. He was supposed to incinerate them in the Presidio military base, and he ended up taking a bunch of them, making a bunch of notes, etc. And he talked about how the whole Roswell scenario was actually, those were Japanese prisoners of war, and those were experimental craft. And he says even if you go to Japan, they wanted to set up a what is it? Not a statue, but like some type of shrine, essentially, in recognition of the Roswell people that died in Roswell. And they got into it on the political stage to where I think Clinton was running an office at that particular time. This is all according to Douglas. And can I verify any of it? No. But certainly interesting approaches that people bring to the table about how that could be a hoax. I personally believe in extraterrestrials 100%. But does that mean that I believe in Roswell the way that it was described and aliens the way they're described in the media? No, not at all. I mean, do you believe in extraterrestrials?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a yes. I've had enough experiences over the time of being on this planet this time. And I mean, I've traveled all over this country and other countries, and I've had experiences, oh my God, so many places and so many times that I would never discount it. Not to mention that, like, the 100 billion galaxies that we can see with Hubble telescope, plus, and how many light years out there that we're seeing, which is limited by one telescope. You mean we're it? And I guess the biggest joke is, like, we're the elite, we're the top, and God stopped with us. I mean, come on, those little misfits on this little blue planet. Come on.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And I wonder, too, with this Planet 9 thing, then, if they're going to use this playing card, the Illuminati playing card that you talk about, this false alien invasion, can you think of a better way to be like, oh man, this planet's coming in, and when it gets at this certain location, it's going to be a lot easier for them to just teleport to our planet. They're all going to attack us in 6 months. So you have to go specifically to get this microchip, because that way we can protect you. You have to take this vaccine and this microchip and this new lobotomy. It's real simple though, and then you'll be fine from the alien invasion.
Right. Have you seen our current technology with holograms?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's incredible.
So if they can do that, you can fool some people pretty quickly with something like that if you're not open and awake and aware. And so this goes back to what I was saying earlier about Dr. Carol Rosen, and she worked with Dr. Werner von Braun. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah.
He was like a German scientist. Okay, so that's what he talked about, a series of events that was going to happen, and it had to do with the military-industrial complex, and it was a plan. They had this all planned out. And the last card, and he kept saying to her, he was on his deathbed telling her this. Now remember, Carol, the last card, and he would laugh about it, like there's going to be this fake alien attack from space. And so with all the technology that we have out there, and with all the drip feeding that's going on with the media and with these movies, hell, they brought back Independence Day again.
I mean, watched that the other day.
It
was pretty good.
These movies.
I'm like, come on, get him, man. Pull that shit up, man. They had the alien technology. They're flying around. They're all happy. They're like, see what happens when we're all happy? And we've been this way for 20 years, since 96 when we defeated the aliens. And now we're one nation and one world and kumbaya. And yeah, it's that enforcement again. It's that subliminal programming. One world. Everybody loves you in the government. Just join up. If you don't, you're part of the problem. You're a redneck.
And there's a war. There's always a threat that you have to join together, band together, and fight against, which is a low vibrational energy. Rather than coming together and kind of putting your heads together for a common good. Like if you ever looked in nature, how natural things are, like an anthill, and how they work together, and they're constantly, moving together, and it's almost magical. You could just sit there and watch how they are in tune with one another, and they're foraging, and they all have their own jobs, and they're doing everything together for the common good of that particular species in that anthill. But yet we are, like I said, these little misfits that have been programmed to fight against each other because of race or color or religion or country. So many. On every level. And so how can we break this cycle is what it comes down to. And so that's what's happening right now. People are waking up to the reality, like, look, we want peace. We just want some peace. We are so fed up and tired with all the BS of the taxation and $2.3 trillion just went missing. Oh, okay, no big deal. You know what I'm saying? And Donald Rumsfeld came out and said that, and they were just like, oh, wow, I wonder where that went. And so I'm thinking to myself, what would my my great grandparents do if something like that would happen. That's when they had gajones, you know? That's whenever they would have stood up and they would have been like, okay, this is enough. And that's, you know, something here or anywhere else in the world is going to happen like out in Iceland. And, you know, you got to, the people that are the problem are the ones that are at the top. We need transparency. We need accountability. We don't have that. Those are the two key factors that people want. You know what? You're human. If you messed up, tell us about it. Okay, we'll fix it. Or else, you know what? You need to step down. You're not good at that job. Let's put somebody else in your place. Oh, and by the way, you're not getting your $250,000 or $350,000 yearly wage until you get stuff done in Congress. No, you can't go on vacation for a week until you get this work done. If they truly worked for us, and that's how we stood up and said, look, if you're going to really be working for us, including yourself and your kids and your grandkids, instead of being this little good old boy school, do you know how the government would change if they weren't getting paid? They're getting paid regardless.
Right. That's a good point. I mean, if you could have it efficient like that, and that's another thing too. I mean, if you could make healthcare competitive, if you could allow other opportunities, and that's one thing that I really admire about Elon Musk is after he sold his portion of PayPal, he was like, what am I going to do? Well, I want to go to space, so I'm going to start a rocket company. And then he essentially realized how expensive it was to do rocket launches, so he started making his own system to do rocket launches, and now they can send rockets into space for about a tenth of what it used to cost them, and people that are working in their garage, starting out, going to college, working hard, even not going to college on the internet themselves, figuring out how to do this kind of stuff. I think that it takes people like him and others, and what you're doing too is admirable. I mean, you are a medical doctor, and you're also doing other things and reaching out into other opportunities and not just being succumbed to that one thing that's also in many levels kind of been infiltrated as well. Don't you agree?
Oh my gosh, on every level, everything has been infiltrated. And so you can just pick a profession, and it's not like it was intended to be or started out that way.
That's a good point.
That is why it's so difficult to really see the truth in, and plus we've been programmed to think it's okay. And so, and once I woke up to the truth, in fact, I got out of family medicine. I've been practicing it since 2003, and I was a registered nurse in 90. I passed my boards in, January of 97. And so I've been in this game for a while. And, you know, just watching how things have changed just since I've been in this. And once I woke up to the truth of what's really going on out there, I want my patients to have a choice. And so when I had my own practice, I had 3 urgent care centers, and half of the practice was, okay, the patient comes through the door, just an example, they have high blood pressure. And I'm doing things like according to the AMA, I'm doing blood work, and we're checking the patient. I'm like, okay, look, your blood is showing that you're high in cholesterol. So the AMA is saying that you need to take Lipitor. You have to take it at nighttime because your cholesterol rises, you know, and say 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's why we take it at nighttime. And this is to decrease your cholesterol. You can do that. Or you can go out and lose weight. You could lose 10, 20 pounds. You can change your diet, exercise, and do it a natural way. There's other herbs and foods that you can eat. There's meditation. There's all kinds of things that you can do to change the body to make it run in a more streamlined fashion. And so I also offered hypnotherapy and energy healing at my practice, but I gave them a choice. And if the patient came in and said, look, doc, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to exercise. So right then is when I say, they're like, look, doc, I'm not going to exercise or anything. Just give me the pill. And you know what? I got to respect that. Hey, if you know who you are as a person, you're not going to exercise, then hey, you have the opportunity. I gave you the information. If you want to go the pill route, here it is. Have at her. But if you want to go the other route, I can also educate you, and I can also point you in the right direction for that too. And so my practice was my biggest success, if you will, was that I was able to implement alternative or complementary therapies within my mainstream practice. And I did urgent care and family medicine. And so, you know, I kind of got a bug up my butt and went out to New Mexico and sold everything, and just, you know, I just needed to find myself in my spirituality and things. And so I kind of sold everything, moved out west, found myself, was drawn back home. I moved back here, and now I'm kind of starting anew. And as you and I have discussed before, I bought a building and some property, and half of it, this is my current plan, half of it is going to be an organic restaurant slash coffee shop, and the other half is going to be my wellness center. And so what I want to do there is I'm probably going to do a little bit of family medicine, but other things I want to do is I want to do some like massage therapy. I want to do hypnotherapy, energy healing, chiropractics. Um, you know, have a nutritional counselor there to educate the public. I also, as I'm building this right now, I'm doing all this research in renewable energy, and they have these rooftop windmills that you can place every 10 feet across the top of your roof, and they're very successful in harnessing the free energy. Also, solar power, and so there's a lot of rebates that are out there right now from the government and from the IRS, and I'm trying to put this all together, including a growing dome, which you can get in Colorado. And I'm in discussions with all these guys and all these different contractors to kind of pull this all together on the top of the mountain here in the Allegheny Mountains. And just so people can come here and say, oh, this does work. This is doable. This isn't just something I read in a magazine. Here this is, fully functioning off-grid. It's a doctor's office / organic restaurant. There you can see right where they're growing the food. There it is in the kitchen. There it is on my plate. And oh my God, what a difference in the taste, the flavor, and how much better it is for you. And the non-GMOs and all these other things. And so that's my mission. That's where I'm at right now in my life. And I'm sorry I switched gears on you, but I kind of got passionate about what you were asking me about, what I've done in my career and where I'm heading.
Well, that's awesome. I wish there was more of that in other states. It'd be neat to see that in Texas. It seems like just on one street in particular that I'm thinking of in San Antonio, there's about as many urgent cares as there is gas stations. I mean, there's like 4 of them on this one strip of road, which I don't know why at that specific area. You've got, taco stands, restaurants, a few urgent cares. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty neat. So I certainly wish you well, and hopefully something like that could actually go mainstream. If you could franchise something like that, that'd be great. Have one in every state or big cities like Austin, Texas. That'd be incredible.
That was my goal when I opened these urgent care centers back in 2006. There wasn't a lot of urgent care centers around. There was only a few. And I was the first one to bring one to the area, and it went from 1 to 3 so quick. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have a plan that works so well, and they were all busy. I just needed to take it to the next level and franchise out within the state and then across the United States is what I was going to do. And I was going to offer, like I said, find people in the area that could complement it, like do the traditional medicine, but also set aside space for these other modalities. That way you give your patient a choice. And so every time that I was on an interview like this, patients or people on the line would ask me, do you know any doctors in my area? Or I get an email that says, do you know any doctor? But there is no forum. There's no doctors that have come together to create such a manifestation. And the next discussion was, well, why don't you create one? And so it's like, yeah, I should do that sometime, I guess. And so it takes a lot of time when you're building these things and you're funding it yourself. When I did it the first time, I didn't get a loan or anything. I just took some money I had in the bank and just went out and just started small, and it just kept growing and growing. And little by little, I just kept piecing it together. And before long, I remember the first day I was there, I'm sitting there literally tapping my fingers going, oh my God, what did I just do? Is the phone going to ring? And the first day I got one patient and went from that. And within a few months, I was so busy, I had to hire more people and to get more exam tables and more exam rooms. And I outgrew that office. And so I had to go and open a couple more up. So yeah, I mean, it's quite exciting to talk about.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm wondering also if this movement really works, the natural healthcare movement, I'm going to call it, because I think that's a pretty good term for it. Maybe people will look at other things that they can do where they don't have to just rely on specific outlets and stuff like that. Just new opportunities and options. I think that could really benefit a lot of people. It could be also a new industry. And then I look at those that are in the media. Maybe this is just another fear tactic, but I think it's also happening as well. What about all these people that are coming up with discoveries of things that are in vaccines or in certain baby formulas, or they come up with certain cures, and then people find them dead. You know what I mean? They're like in these weird circumstances. Have you been keeping track on stuff like that? I think it's called the natural homeopath death list or something like that, or hit list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen the list as it was growing and growing, and then I kind of moved away from it. Like I said, I haven't been on Facebook since my birthday back in April, and I just got away from all that kind of the Twitter and the LinkedIn and all those things. You know what? I would have no idea if there was anything bad going on in the world. I wouldn't know the presidency thing was going on. I'm in my own little world. I get up, I go to the gym, I go to work. When I get home from work, I'm working around the house or I'm working on my new project. I literally wouldn't know anything's going on in the world. And I like it that way. I like my own little bubble, and it keeps me out of the drama, the doom and gloom, the fear, and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I still feel like I can participate in the world and help humanity on a bigger scale. And that's why I'm on this program with you tonight, is because I really want to talk to people and say, look, there's so much more out there. Open your eyes. Don't take it for face value. Ask questions. Don't just follow the leader. Just, you know, step aside, step outside the box and question. And as soon as you start to question, and I like your point about how this movement would open people's eyes and ears to other things, because once you go down one of these rabbit holes, all of a sudden you're shown other things that are associated. And you're like, oh, well, I never saw that before. Oh, I never saw that before. Just like myself, whenever I learned how to fly a plane, I never in a million years knew the dynamics of it. I never knew how many airports there were, little airports. I didn't know how they worked. It is so awesome. I can get in my plane, fly to where you're at, to a smaller airport. They have a courtesy car there. I leave my plane there. I either purchase fuel or I don't. It's courtesy if I do, because they're giving me their car to take all day long. You don't even have to put gas in it. It's a courtesy. But of course, if you want to leave fuel for the next guy, you pay it forward. And there's this whole movement of pilots that are very respectful to one another. And the point is I would have no idea that this is even a reality out there until I started flying. So there are so many things that people just don't know, including myself. There's a lot of things that are out there that these are exciting times to be alive, but you have to get out of the old. And that's my biggest message tonight, is the old programming, it's going down. And you have to be open to be adaptable, almost like a chameleon, and you gotta kind of move into things, and you play the game while you're there. And don't get sucked into all this drama, because there is a lot of that out there. They are putting a lot of stuff out there. Is it a reality? I guess it is. I don't know, though. I don't have the proof. I didn't see the bodies in the at the coroner's office. So I think that some of this, maybe there's 2 or 3 people that were coincidentally died, and then all of a sudden they blew this whole story up. Now, there may be people that take time to get on there and vet all this. That's not me. I really don't want to take all my time to do this kind of investigation. That's more part of the geopolitical wake-up, which is more of a high 3D, low 4D energy. And I've gone through all that. And so this is the other message, is that there is a ascension process, which many people are calling it. And you're going from 3rd density to 4th, and you're peeking into the 5th right now. And as you're going up this ladder, you start to experience and see things that you've never seen before. But the key is to be open to the next thing. And so I was stuck in a religion, Catholicism, that anything that I did outside of that was a sin. And I was going to go to hell, and I was going to this and that and the other thing. And because of fear, it prevented me from stepping out and learning all these other things that are just awesome. And so I don't want to cut down anybody's religion. If that's where you are, you know what? You're in your own perfection. I'm not judging you, but I also have been there and stepped out of it and know that there's a whole gamut of things that people can learn, and higher truths and better ways of living than what that particular genre of energy and religion or understanding has to offer.
Absolutely. And actually, if you go to healthnutnews.com, there's an article, Holistic Doctor Death Series, over 60 dead in just over a year. And I'm thinking to myself, man, first of all, how terrible is this? And if 60 doctors, let's say half of them were assassinated, essentially, and you could just track 1 or 2 of the assassins and find out who paid them, I think that you could break open something enormous. Could you imagine a giant conglomerate paying somebody to do that? If you could link it back to one of those organizations, that could be the catalyst to something huge. I mean, talk about a domino effect. If you could get that into the courts, into the media, and have enough coverage to pick it up. But there you go again. You've got 90% of the media controlled by 6 enormous conglomerates. So if they don't want to play ball, they're going to have to see. They're going to have to see enough money going back their way to make it beneficial, or you're going to have outlets that are neutral, that are in the raw, that are independent, that are literally looking for stories, not for the dollar, that those guys are going to expose it, but it's going to be a long time before that'll ever hit the mainstream. And even by the time it does, it could be considered old hat, or the media will find another way to spin it, wag the dog. Oh, we found planet 4,678 quadrillion, so be prepared for that planet now. You know what I mean? It's just so much psychological conditioning. It's unbelievable. Welcome to the New World Order, where they love you.
Yeah, exactly. We have been desensitized is the best word that I can say. And I'll give you an example. Whenever I started down this path, the very first injection that I had to give, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this to this person. This is going to hurt. And oh my God, I don't like needles, and I wouldn't want someone jamming this in my arm or my butt or wherever you're sticking it. And I had to overcome that. And after I did that, and then after I started sewing people up in blood and broken bones and all the things that were once horrific to me, now they're like old hat, like, oh yeah, it's just a broken bone. Nope. Meanwhile, someone else's perspective that has never seen certain things will freak out and pass out. And I'll be like, oh yeah, that's nothing. And it's not that I'm better than the person. It's just that I've been desensitized to what I'm involved in right now. And it's the same thing across this planet right now. Everybody is so desensitized. When something major comes up, we're like, oh, wow. How about that? And then you just go on about your day. It's almost expected. It's like, yeah, well, that's the life. This is the life we live today. Yeah, it's a tough world. Yep, and all the media is constantly on it. The next president is going to have the challenge of a lifetime before him or her, and they're going to have to combat terrorism, and they're going to have to get a hold of the economics and all this other crap that's all fear. And meanwhile, people are like, yeah, God, that next president, oh my God. Instead, and I used to be there. So when I'm listening to it now, I'm like, oh God, here we go with this old programming. That's what it is. So I guess if you could step out of that old stuff, because it doesn't work. Obviously it doesn't work. Look where we're at. We just keep going in cycles and cycles, and history repeats itself. So what can we do new? What can we do in a positive note, or what can we do for each other? I mean, anything positive. I mean, just smiling at somebody, for God's sakes, and just saying hi instead of putting your head down and being scared of the person and being like, oh God, that guy's going to mug me if I look up at him, or they're going to try to scam me. And so, the world we live in, it's definitely challenging. And there's so many things that are going on right now that there's so much that's as far as the water being muddied by so many different avenues, that really you just have to sit back and go, what the hell is the truth here? What is the reality that we're living? It really is confusing. If you're really sucked into it. And again, that's why I get myself pulled out of it. When I get all stressed out, all I have to do is shut the phone off, shut the computer off, shut the TV off, don't answer the phone, get out into nature, go do something, be in the present moment. Even if I'm just doing something simple like mowing the grass or weed eating or anything that takes my mind to one present thing in the present moment, all the rest goes away. And I get clear, like right now. And it takes minutes. And so I think we're bombarded by the hassle of having to get up and hurry up and go to work. And, oh, God, the taxes are due. And, oh, my gosh, I'm going to run out of oil. What am I going to do this winter? And, oh, God, the kids need shoes. We are put in this panic mode all the time. We're running on fear. And that's what some people call the archons, that not a lot of people are aware of unless you really research it. And they are energy suckers. They're vampires. They're energy vampires. And so when they put all this stuff out on the TV, through our cell phones, through the media, everything, that's how they live. And if we were to turn our focus away from all this stuff and be positive, game over. But it's really difficult once you're in it, because this holographic universe that we live in seems so real. I mean, you can knock on wood right now and go, this is real. Like, what do you mean this is holographic? But yet, what we said earlier was, look how real the holograms are that we can create. And I really think that's what we're living in.
It's so funny you brought that up, because I was actually going to mention that before we got done speaking tonight, was the possibility of this simulation that we could be residing in right now. And I brought this up before, and there's most comments, people have a very constructive, they bring something constructive to the table. But there's a couple that I've read before where I think to myself, okay, this person's very low on the IQ scale, or he just, they just don't want to understand, whatever. But just because it's a simulation doesn't mean it's not real. It is definitely real. If you get hurt or hit by a bus, you're going to know. So, but there's certain things that we got to realize here. If we are in a simulation of sorts, and what feeds the simulation? Well, does fear feed the simulation? Absolutely it does. But which part of the simulation are you feeding with that fear? Are you going to constantly feed what you are worried about? You know, and if that's Planet X, if that's World War III, if that's chemtrails, if that's the Anunnaki, if that's the Nephilim, whatever it is, if you're always fearing that, not looking for solutions, I think that that's giving more power to them than yourself. And I like how you've brought this to the table. Once we're out of that 3D matrix and get into the higher levels of vibrational frequencies, well, there's not going to be those opportunities anymore. So I think that that's a good thing to close out with tonight. Look at the positive, look at the bright side of things, expect the best, plan for the worst, expect the best, focus on the good things, not the bad things, be aware of your surroundings. Know if you watch TV like myself, if you binge watch specific TV shows like House of Cards, for example, you know, I mean, if you're into that kind of stuff, which I certainly am, I look for the subliminal message behind every TV show. I was taught at a pretty young age, I should say, at about 15 years old, what to look for in the media, what they do to the mind subliminally, subconsciously. With my career path that I was in for 20 years, I'm really good at reading people. I mean, that was what I had to do to make a living, was I had to know how to read people, get them emotionally attached, know what their hot buttons are. And I took that and also focused on, okay, well, if I know how to do it, what is the media doing to us? I can look for what they do and use it for good things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting somebody emotionally involved if you're using it for the right purpose. If you're an entertainer, you don't want to be boring, because you can't be an entertainer.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the other thing, you're talking about what we've been talking about here. This last part was about survival mode, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't be prepared, because everything that's coming to a head right now, wouldn't it be nice just to have a little extra food and a little extra water and everything that you need to, if the power does go out for a couple weeks, you're good. There is no fear. There's no, oh my God, you're ready. And so I'm not saying don't be, you know, don't have everything in ready for something like that. That's just being responsible, because the world we live in is 3D and we require food and water to live. But if you were to prepare just a little extra for like a couple weeks or even a month, then if something hits the fan, you're ready to go. But I'm saying don't be so in fear all the time where you're constantly watching some of this stuff on TV, like, oh my God, CNN saying we're going to war. And they keep repeating the same things over and over. And the more you watch it, the more you believe it. And so what you got to remember is we're only using like, what, 3 to 5% of our DNA? What's the rest for? In like 8 to 10% of our brain. And so, you know, the brain, let me just give you one thing before we close out, Rex. I have several patients that have had an amputee of the leg. Their brain still perceives their foot is on fire or burning, but they don't have a foot. They don't have a leg. It's cut off at the knee. And so when you program the brain to believe something, it's there. And so the only thing that you can do to change that is to reprogram it. And sometimes what's been successful with this is hypnotherapy. And so I'm not saying it works for everybody every time. I'm saying that we've been programmed to such a point within this hologram that we're talking about that if you believe it, it's going to happen. So a lot of this has to do with your personal beliefs. And until you step out of them, then, and that's what I was saying before about stepping out and just questioning things. That's all you got to do, is to start to question. Get out of the survival mode, be inspired. What inspires you? What brings you your greatest joy? From the heart. That's the direction you need to go. And if everybody would start doing that and doing what brings them their best joy, this world would change overnight. We're never in spirit or inspired because we are kept down, we're kept working, we're kept looking over our shoulder. But if you do what I say, you know, just try it. You know, don't even take my word for it. Go do it. Get out into nature and try to just chill and try to get everything out of your mind and see how you feel. Take a walk out in nature. You will be balanced. Mother Earth will balance you, and you'll be like, oh, man, I need to do this more often. In fact, I had a patient came in to me, which I never in a million years, just a month ago, came in. He was, no, a couple months, 2 months ago now. He started kayaking. This guy has chronic back pain. He can't hardly even walk. And he said, you know what I started doing last month? I said, what's that? I started kayaking. And he's like, I go out on the lake. I'm out there in nature. The whole world goes away. My pain has been reduced. My blood pressure's down. I feel like $1,000,000. Every chance I can get out there now, I'm on that kayak. And once he had a taste of it, now he's just doing it all the time because it works.
That's awesome. Kayaking is great, by the way. I used to live in the Northwest by the Puget Sound area and had a nice 16-foot eddy line. That thing was great. You go out there and you are in tune with nature when you do stuff like that. So that's wonderful advice. Much appreciated talking with you, Joseph. It's always nice to hear what you have to say. I know that you're a very busy person. You got a lot going on. So the fact that you just took time out of your day to spend it here with us at the Leak Project, that's really awesome of you. Much appreciated.
Well, hey, thank you for having me on. If there's any new developments out in the news, if you want a different opinion, that's how I'll put it. I do got some insights or some things I sometimes hold back intuitively because I don't want to create fear. So let's just see how things unfold over the coming weeks. And if anything happens up and before the election, you give me a ring and I'll come on and we'll discuss it. Because I really think that that's where we're heading. There's going to be people like yourself and other people that are awake. And there are people that are just completely asleep and they have no idea of what we're talking about. They wouldn't even have tuned into this because they just don't know about Nibiru, about the elite, about any of this. And so there are going to be way showers like yourself, like myself, like other people that really need to give advice and give positive information and direction. And so anything in the future, anytime, you give me a call and I'll be on for you, okay?
Hey, much appreciated. Thank you so much. It's good to talk to you.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Take care. Good night.
Take care. New World War III order. Russia downgrade Pluto. Planet 9, not X. Tilting Sun. Twisting solar system. Phys.org. Space.com. Mainstream news. NASA admits 1,200 new planets discovered. Presidential election. Financial collapse. Bank holiday. Staged events. Media subliminal mind control. Archon feeding ground. Breaking free. Matrix. Dr. Joseph Marra. Latest Leak Project. Here's what I'm seeing that's going on right now, possibly. Now, I've seen this so many times in the past, and as I've always, or as I, not always, but often brought up before, this is cyclical in my opinion, especially around election time. It seems to be heated up, a lot of these certain doomsday scenarios to get people in that reptilian brain set, fight or flight mode, so they're easier to orchestrate, easier to control, etc. But I certainly see the possibility of more war. Now, are we going to go to war with Russia? If we do that, that could certainly pull in China, Iran, virtually every modern nation on the planet, which would equal World War III. And I see a lot of TV shows and movies that are portraying the fall of our government here at home, fall of the White House. I mean, those movies that came out just a couple years ago even, and the TV shows, the new series that's out there called Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland, Mr. Robot showing an economic collapse, a new currency that's based on digital versus this fiat paper system, etc. So, I mean, certainly there's a lot of stuff that could possibly be going down. Now, you've brought to my attention some of the health issues with certain political candidates, and you have brought up before that you're not sure if Hillary or Donald Trump is going to make it into office. You think something else could go on, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I also want to bring up all this talk about Planet 9 being discovered at the edge of our solar system, Caltech University. Now it's all over space, different space websites, pretty mainstream stuff too. It's been talked about on Forbes. Phys.org actually came up with a really cool article recently talking about how the reason the sun has seen a recent tilt is because of this enormous planet on the outskirts of our solar system. And now they can call it Planet 9, not Planet X, because Pluto was downgraded in 2006 by one of the same gentlemen that's talking about Planet X. So could there be a coincidence there? I don't know. But I also want to bring up the executive order that has recently been released in the whitehouse.gov. You can go and read about it. Coordinating efforts to prepare the nation for space weather events. Virtually all large networks in the Department of Defense, space satellites, etc., nuclear facilities have to come up with some new preparations and safeguards due to possibilities. Could this be related with this ginormous planet that they're finally telling us about, Planet 9? This is all the stuff we're going to talk about. So I know that that was definitely a mouthful, and who better to talk about this than with you, Joseph? So thanks a lot for spending time with us, man. I know that you're super busy, got a lot going on. This should be great.
Oh, you know what? You did say a mouthful, but there's a lot going on right now, and you hit on a lot of the key things that are going on. And like you said, is it a distraction? Are they going to pull some kind of blue beam? Look over here with the right hand, so you're not paying attention to what the left hand's doing. Right around the election time, absolutely. Everything that you said, I'm in tune with, and it's going to be curious how this conversation goes tonight.
Now, what do you think is going to happen with the presidential elections? Did you watch the debates?
The only debate that I caught was the very last one. And, like I've told you in the past, I don't watch TV. I catch it once in a while, like if I stop in at my mom's place or if I go into an establishment that has the television on, then I might look at it just to see what's currently going on. But I would have no idea what's really going on in the world if I didn't have those exposures. And the other day I watched the third and final debate only because I was home and I was like flipping through YouTube and there was a live stream, and I thought, you know what, I might as well check this just to see what's going on with the people. And it was really, really interesting. I mean, oh my God. The thought I had was, you mean to tell me out of America, out of the 300 million people plus, these are the best presidential candidates? It's laughable, and I'm sure we're being laughed at by other countries. I just can't even believe it.
What I thought was just hysterical was actually if you saw the Saturday Night Live skit where I think it was Alec Baldwin played Trump, and he played him perfectly. I mean, it was magnificent, brilliant. I could watch that dozens of times, hysterical. But when I watched the third debate, I literally thought to myself, is the same speechwriter involved in both of these scenarios? Because it was just the parallels, man. I mean, Donald Trump literally in that third debate was like Alec Baldwin playing Donald Trump in the Saturday Night Live skit, the stuff that he was saying, when he was saying it, the way that he was doing it. And even Hillary was kind of playing, they both played the roles very well. And, I think that obviously, here's what I'm seeing. This is where my mindset's going. I've talked before about how I think they're both kind of on the same playing field, playing for the same people, maybe behind the scenes. They used to be friends, or at least they used to say they were friends publicly and shown a lot in the limelight. Now they won't even shake hands or even walk past each other, at least in what we see in the mainstream. So I see if Hillary gets in office, it's going to be a continuation and more so of a globalist type America, and less identity, more into this. Just bring everybody everywhere into here. And if you were born in America, if you're a middle class of certain values, well, then you're going to be looked at as frowned upon or racist or a kook or a redneck or a hillbilly or whatever, just because of this new approach to feminizing everything, make everything metrosexual. All the commercials now, the guys are portrayed as these real sissy-like, oh, yes, dear, what do you want me to do? Yes, I'll go out and play in the dollhouse while you watch cable on my big screen TV with your friends. I mean, that's the kind of portray that they have today in society, at least in the media. So where am I going with all this? Well, with the continuation of globalization versus nationalization, I see Donald Trump, if he gets in office, it's going to be more of a national type society. It's going to get more into maybe bringing jobs back here unless it benefits certain corporate interests. I don't know, but that's kind of where my mindset is going. Either way, I don't want to vote for either of them because I think they're both very. I don't agree with either of them essentially, but I do see where they're going. Now, what do you think will happen if let's look at both scenarios for you? If Donald Trump makes it in versus Hillary, or if Hillary makes it in versus Donald?
Well, to answer your question first, I think if Hillary gets in, it's going to be more of the same. If Donald gets in, I think there's going to be some change. But what you have to remember, there are like 13 families that run the planet, and there are a lot of people at the top within those 13 families. And I think the two candidates that are in play right now, each are sponsors of one of these 13 families. So regardless of who gets in, it's not like Donald Trump just came out of nowhere and all of a sudden he's, it's not by accident, and it's not, let's just say it's not an accident that he's there. He's gotten so far because, yes, the media, there's a spin on that, but there's all kind of things that you've seen over the years to stop people from being in a particular position. They have so many technologies out there that could kill a person like right now. And so I just by them being players on the chessboard, so to speak, I think that they're playing for maybe not the exact same team, but they're from the elites. And I think they're two different factions that are vying for a position. And I think that Hillary is representative of the old. And I think that there's a new faction out there that wants to take control. And these are both for old school. They're more draconian. They're more control factor people. But I really don't think either one is going to become president. If they do, if some surprise doesn't happen, like all of a sudden there's a martial law type thing, or there's a blue beam, or there's some other event that stops this election. I mean, first of all, Hillary Clinton